Welcome to Legal Keys, unlocking time, revenue, and results. The podcast that connects you with the people, technologies, and trending topics shaping the modern legal landscape. From cutting-edge AI innovations to high-growth marketing strategies and everything in between. Legal Keys is your go-to resource for actionable insights. Brought to you by Faster Outcomes and hosted by Tim Sawyer, two-time Inc. 500 co-founder entrepreneur. We're here to help you navigate the tools and trends driving success in today's legal world.
Hello and welcome to Legal Keys, sponsored by Faster Outcomes. Faster Outcomes is the ultimate legal intelligence platform for law firms and lawyers of all shapes and sizes. It's exciting today. This is our 14th episode of Legal Keys. This is your first time joining. Welcome. We appreciate you. If you've been following, liking, sharing the podcast, we appreciate your support. And you'll be rewarded today because we've got a great guest, knows more about the legal profession than most people have. He's forgotten more, as I should say, than most people know. And many of you will know him. I want to thank him for joining us today. Emery Wager is the co-founder and CEO of Confido Legal, an embedded finance platform built for law firms. A former United States Marine Corps infantry officer, served 2 combat tours in Afghanistan, and thank you for your service, Emery. And a Stanford-educated mechanical engineer. Emery spent nearly a decade in fintech. I have some experience with that before founding Confido. The company powers digital payments, disbursements, and embedded financial features inside legal tech systems. And that's a lot to say. He also has his Financially Legal podcast. I encourage all of you to check that out. I've been on it. It's great, and you're going to love it. And I think for context, so first of all, welcome, Emery. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Yeah, excited to be here on the other side of the microphone this time.
We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun. I feel like the pressure is always on is the person asking the questions. So it's almost more fun you'll have than being the host. So, but what I want to do is just for context, is tell us a little bit about Confido and how is Confido making life easier for the modern law firm or lawyer?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Tim. Excited to be here. We basically come at the legal space from the client perspective. So in a previous role, I reviewed and paid millions of dollars in legal fees just in the normal course of business on behalf of the company that I worked for, and was just really frustrated. Even after, reviewing the legal bill, signing off on it, it was really difficult to just get the money to the firm, and realized that was having a major impact on cash flow, revenue, and most importantly, profit in the legal space. And so we set out to build Confido to focus on that problem initially, to reduce the friction between the client, the paying client, and the law firm, to help firms convert accounts receivable into cash faster, and to help them recoup more revenue, collections revenue, which is the most profitable revenue you can realize as a law firm, since the legal work has already been done to earn that. So that's how we got our start, to kind of solve that inbound payments problem. And then we realized that there was this whole other area of law, the contingency, the plaintiff side, operating on a contingency, on the contingency fee structures, where they are dispersing money via almost exclusively paper checks. And as we'll, I'm sure, get into today, the next generation of plaintiffs that are coming up expect fast digital payouts, and we felt that the plaintiff space was very unprepared for that, and so that's kind of problem number 2 for us right now.
Got it. And so in terms of accounts receivable, so a lawyer's got this big book of accounts receivable, some collectible, some, like you said, maybe not collectible. How practically speaking, are you engaging in that process? So are you helping them physically collect the money, meaning calling people and collecting money, or are you deploying software? How does that work?
Yeah, so we integrate with existing time and billing, case management, practice management, CRM systems in the legal space to enable a digital payment experience between the client and the law firm. So we are actually the ones that are presenting those options to the client, moving the money, making sure that it's really easy for the client and the money gets to the law firm as fast as possible.
Got it. So it's not like you're getting involved in, they've got uncollectible debts per se, that have been on the books for 6 months to 9 months. Are you getting involved in that, trying to expedite and get some of that money back? Is that what you're saying?
We are kind of like the last line of defense, I would say, before you sort of outsource that. So, if you're willing to put a client, say, on a payment plan that's behind, we can power that in an automated fashion. But the second you're talking about sort of collections, that's when we have partners that we refer out to for that, but we don't get involved in that directly. Purely a digital payments platform integrated to case management and time and billing systems.
Got it. You ever thought about, for contingency law, where they've got to, so they have this massive pipeline and they've got to wait for their money, almost like advancing the money somehow? Are there companies that do that? Or do you get involved in any of that? Or in other words, your pipeline is worth $1 million, here's 500, we'll collect the money for you.
Yeah,
we've
thought a lot. We've thought a lot about that, and to some degree, we do that not for the law firm, but for the client, the end client. We allow them to get their money, instantly, as opposed to waiting, a week or two for that check to show up. So they can pay a fee. They can get it for free on a kind of a typical ACH timeline, or get it pay a fee and get that money in their bank account, usually as soon as they've closed out our app.
Got it. And in terms of where the industry is at with adoption of this type of technology, is it a small percentage with a long way to grow, or is it a large percentage that are getting more advanced? How is that?
It's a very small percentage, especially on the plaintiff side. In fact, we've heard from many different firms, there's a kind of a circulating rumor that the rules of professional conduct require the firm to use a paper check, which, we've debunked that kind of on a recent podcast episode and done a bunch of legal research around that. It's not true. You can digitize the payout experience, but on the plaintiff side, the vast majority is done via paper check, and it needs to change to meet the expectations of that.
Which is exactly what I made a note about that. And it would seem to me that in 2025, clients' expectations around getting their money is probably not, how many people have a phone anymore, hooked on a wall, right? Half the people don't have bank accounts. So, it's like, it's tricky. So in terms of expectations, for legal services, is the client ramping up their expectations on, hey, if I get engaged in this, I expect you to operate like everybody else in the world. When this is over, I get my money, we're done.
100%.
Are they feeling pressure that way?
100%. Yeah, I think we're even past the point now where it's a delight. Now it's sort of a demand. Clients, there's a lot of data out there, studies that if clients have to wait more than a couple days or even more than a day to get their payout, they're going to go to a different brand. And so it's past the point of, hey, we can delight our clients. It's like, it needs to happen, or else, folks are going elsewhere. I mean, when was the time you deposited a paper check?
I haven't. My wife handles a true story. My wife has handled the money for so long, not so much on the investment side and the business side, but the inner workings of our home. I couldn't sign a check. I hate to say it on on a recording, but they wouldn't recognize my signature because I haven't signed one in so long. And the last ones we signed, she signed my name. And so the idea of going to a bank, and I would think, Emery, though, from a marketing standpoint, right, that would be a nice signal to the person. And one of the best parts about working with us, Mrs. Jones, is when we settle, you get paid. There's
Yeah.
no long-term delays. There's no,
Mhm.
you know, post-audit analysis and wait in the mail for a paper check for a month. I would think lawyers would want to say, hey, we do this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, more and more are doing that. We talk a lot about the workflow benefits, the internal financial controls that digitizing that process can deliver, but by far the biggest driver is just those client expectations are changing so much. And the younger generations, the kind of Z millennials, are like 2-3 times more likely to have that kind of demand for instant digital payments than some of the older generations.
Yeah, it would make sense to me. I mean, I'm not a lawyer by trade, and it would seem to me like that old process. Now, again, there may be some belief, some hangover belief that you got to do that, right? But clearly, what you're saying is you don't. I wouldn't want the brain damage, right? And to what, get float? I mean, people can get float anymore. I don't know. They get the money and then maybe
Well,
there's
most of it is sitting in an IOLTA account. So it's not, it's not benefiting any, it's going, like the interest is going to fund legal aid, but it's not benefiting the firm to sit on that. In fact, most states, the rules of professional conduct, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but I have looked a lot at these rules, and they basically say that you need to get money once you're holding money that's owed to a client, you have to get it to them in a timely manner. So,
right.
It's a little cheeky, but in 2025, sending them a paper check, you could argue that's actually unethical because it's not timely.
Yeah, I agree. Which brings us to another question. I know you work with a lot of lawyers. I know you're a Stanford guy. You know what you're talking about. And as an AI guy, I see a lot changing, this being one of them, and I'm grateful, which is why I love the podcast, because I learn more every week about the legal profession. I feel like I'm getting, not a practical law degree, but certainly in the periphery, secondary and tertiary law degree for sure, the mechanics of it. So in your experience, as you're looking at this, what are some of the other common inefficiencies that are still dragging down legal workflows? And are you guys using, I don't know how much you're looking at AI, but as an AI guy, are you guys using AI? And what are you hearing when you're interacting with legal professionals about their adoption of AI?
Yeah. So, it's really interesting. It especially in the plaintiff space where that
Yeah.
contingency fee model just drives efficiency so much more than the hourly model. And what I'm seeing is that the best firms are heavily using AI and other current technologies to drastically reduce operating costs. And what that's doing is creating sort of an arms race on CAC, customer acquisition cost.
Yeah.
And so marketing and kind of customer acquisition cost is among the top firms is going through the roof as they compete with that sort of operating cost that they don't have anymore. So I think the one of the sort of the next frontiers is as operating efficiencies continue to need to be found. And I would argue
I'm
that
making a note.
the disbursements process is one very untapped area to further reduce operating cost there. But really using current technology to rein in that customer acquisition cost arms race, and be really, really efficient, and to leverage your happy existing client base to get new clients, as opposed to spending, on general marketing stuff like billboards and whatnot.
But you just said something very profound, and I applaud you for that. The idea that on the personal injury side, so contingency-based law, unlike the billing hour, dollars efficiency translates to bottom line dollars. and spend real spendable dollars. And what you just said makes so much sense, because I hear lawyers saying, oh, it's the cost of pay-per-click ads, the cost of local service ads going on, everything's going up, because there's more money being diverted to that part of the business. What an interesting concept. So it's a boon for the marketing industry, right? Because they're getting a lot more dollars. And that's interesting. It's making more, so it supports my argument that you need to have AI, right? Because if those dollars are still trapped in processing and workflows and general operations, it'd be very difficult to be competitive on them in the larger markets, right? Where you're trying to get, the Rob Levines of the world who are, thousands of matters going at any one point in time. I can't imagine what those budgets look like. But to your point, those dollars captured, that totally makes sense to me. And I hope that my listeners caught that. Operational efficiency through AI allows you to reallocate those dollars to be more competitive on the client acquisition side. That's the takeaway from this conversation today. And that is a very good point. I also want to talk about,
if you compare that to smaller law firms that are more kind of relationship based, and they get, they kind of nurture those referrals, through personal relationships, they're not feeling the pain as much yet because they don't have to spend a bunch to acquire a customer. But the second you really want to scale your firm, you're going to be in that situation today.
It's a great point. I hope everyone's listening and has ears to hear. The other thing I wanted to talk about was compliance is obviously a huge issue in your space, and coming out of fintech, you would certainly have an appreciation for compliance. What are the compliance risks when legal firms move to digital payments and the handling of data?
So first, like, I think it's important to talk about what the baseline is. The paper check, basically, for every check written, there's about $2 of fraud that goes along with that. So, if you're, if you're doing $50 million a year in settlements via paper check, there's about $100,000 of loss being created in that system, whether you as the firm are paying for it directly, or if your bank is covering it, and you're paying for it indirectly. There's a huge loss percentage on kind of this in the status quo. And so I think it's important to have that baseline before you start thinking about transitioning to digital payments that may seem scary because it's new and it's not as familiar as the paper check. But the paper check is one of, if not the most dangerous way to send money these days. So that baseline is important. As you're transitioning to digital, just making sure that you have a good process to authenticate the person who's going to be accepting that payout. You don't want that to be sent kind of willy-nilly, unauthenticated through email. You want to have a verification process to know that the right person is going to receive the right amount at the right time. So that's generally kind of at a high level. If you're switching to digital, you want to make sure of that. Ethically, the rules, again, I'm not a lawyer. We had a great, to put in a plug for our own podcast, Financially Legal. We did a great episode a few days ago with Jane Reardon, a renowned ethics attorney, who talked about this specifically. But it's actually not that, there's not a lot of rules around ethics rules, or even opinions around digital payouts, but kind of triangulating the existing rules and applying those to digital payouts. Really, it's about just a few things: making sure that you're tracking who received the disbursement and when they received it, who at the firm approved the disbursement and when they approved it, when the amount was debited from the trust account. So making sure
Yep.
that you're reconciling that trust account, and then making sure that each disbursement has a unique identifier that can be tied to the client and the matter. So if you're doing that and you have a very secure authentication mechanism to make sure that the right account holder is accepting that money, then you in this day and age can feel pretty good about moving to digital.
That's interesting. And in your portfolio, are you seeing more adoption in the smaller solo practitioners, or is it mid-level law, larger law firms? Who are the leaders in this, I guess?
Yeah, so there's always this group of, solos and small firms who can turn on a dime and want to adopt the newest technology. And I really applaud those early adopters. And every time we've launched a new, product or feature, it's those folks who are first to, to come in.
Yeah.
But the exciting thing for us now is I think the top firms, because a lot driven by that kind of that need for technology efficiency now, are realizing that this is the future. Their clients are demanding fast digital payouts. And so we're seeing some of the biggest firms in the country coming on the platform now, which is super exciting for us.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you brought something up that was interesting. So in our last episode, met this young lady who's really, really smart. She's a chief legal and tech officer for Finipay. And Finipay has a bunch of brands underneath it and, case management solutions. And we were talking about the discussions that she does a lot of writing for ABA, and she's a published author, super smart gal. And we're talking about the billable hour, and we're talking about tech trends and the future of that model in general, right? And it was interesting, her take on it. Her feeling was the lawyers are still thinking nothing's going to change. And then outside observers, this is my 4th startup, 2 private equity sales. I know when people start looking at something and go, we can make this more efficient. I know that there are no forces in nature that are going to prevent that from happening. Yeah. This is not how the world, nothing becomes more inefficient as we become more efficient as a nation, a society, as a people. And so are you hearing, as you're talking about that, the billable hour debate going on much? And what's your take on?
Yes, 100%. I mean, if you're a law firm that's still making a ton of money upcharging on, hiring, 100 contract workers to go through e-discovery materials, your time is going to come to an end pretty quickly to be able to do that. So,
and we want them to be profitable forever.
Yeah.
My thing is more as an evangelist to say, hey, whether it's Faster Outcomes or somebody like us, you might want to look at tightening up the bolts, because some switch is going to happen, right? And her take was that switch is going to be driven from in-house counsel, the people who are consuming legal services for their client to other lawyers. And he or she is sophisticated themselves, and they know, hey, you're using AI, right? Not like the 2 years ago where the guy goes, I'm not using AI. And then he's using AI. Now it's like, hey, you're using AI, right? And so it was an interesting take on that. I was just thinking in your line of work that you probably bump into that.
Oh yeah. No, it's super interesting. And even if not every aspect of a case is built on flat fee, I think certain things, I'll just go back to the e-discovery example, that type of thing will, soon, in my opinion, exclusively be done on flat fee.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be less of an emphasis on revenue and much more emphasis on profit.
Yeah, smart. And I think you're going to see that happen. So as we start to wind down, what's up for the next 6 months for you and Confido? What can we expect to see from you and the team, and what's going on?
Yeah, super exciting time. I mean, we're really focused on building out this disbursements product for particularly for the personal injury, workers' comp, mass tort space to totally digitize that process. Coming at all of this from the client standpoint, I'm very passionate about that client experience, and I just want to make that financial interaction, as smooth as it is on Amazon, Uber. I don't want. There's enough challenges working with a lawyer. Especially from the consumer standpoint, it can be you can be in a tough situation when you're working with a lawyer, and to have unnecessary financial friction in that interaction is just unacceptable in my abode. And I'm excited to not just do that on kind of the hourly, side of law, but also the contingency side now. So
That's great.
really,
That's great. And I
looking
think you're
to
going to
that area.
see, I think your head's in the right place, and you're going to see a movement, like you said, this isn't going to take 3 years. This goes every 90 days. People are like, what? And, it truly is changing, and all for the better. And at the end of the day, my take on it as an outside observer, someone who's relatively new to the legal profession, it's all about the consumer at the end of the day, right? The client. Keep the client in the middle.
Mhm.
And I think what you're doing does that. I think AI enables lawyers to go faster, provide faster outcomes, right? More accurate outcomes faster. And all those things are good for the consumer. And if we all stay together, both the companies that are supporting the law firms, and we all stay focused on the client and supporting the client in their journey, the ones who do that the best are going to be the ones who ultimately win and scale and grow. And I'm grateful to be part of that movement, and grateful for you coming on, man. I enjoy you spending time today. How would, if a lawyer, law firm, paralegal, office manager is listening to this and they think that's pretty cool, I want to find out more, how would they get a hold of you? Where would they go?
Yep. Confidolegal.com is a great place to get started. And you can also, if you have questions, reach out to me directly. I'm pretty responsive on LinkedIn, Emery Wager, or you can email me directly at ewager@confidolegal.com.
ewager@confidolegal.com. Emery, always a pleasure. As always, I learned a ton. This was great for our listeners. I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. Like I said, our 14th episode, we continue to grow our following. Super grateful. We hope that you like and share us, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks a lot, Tim.